Hi, host Eric here. I was talking with trans people. And it occurs to me, freedom of expression is the single most important value. It's the value we have to uphold. In any culture that allows censorship and control information from a central authority, you've got a Holocaust. You've got a Holocaust. I think about Jasmine displaying the same thing Jeff Chen displayed. She's younger, more pliable, more able to grow still, right? Billions of people's minds ruined. I don't think Jeff Chen can recover from that. I don't think he'll ever be a good thinker. I When I walk away from making that video, I realized the reason I'm so appalled is I'm holding to the standard of a Westerner. If you have freedom of expression, unfettered as it can possibly get, not 100%, 100%, you can't violate rights, but as unfettered as you can get, if it's your top priority, always over feelings, then you can breathe easy. You can breathe, you know? As a people, you can breathe. At least you can film the fuckers. Authoritarianism is a problem everywhere in the world. There are authority figures who believe in the process of centralized authority and believe themselves entitled to exercise power in ways that they are not entitled nor capable of exercising. You have got people swinging clubs at other people, feeling totally justified by it, getting away with it because of permissive culture regarding violence by police, for example. You've got a society in America where prosecutors engage in some of the most wicked and awful conduct of any human beings in the country. And even when convicted of crimes, which almost never, ever, ever happens, they serve almost no time in prison. Even when their crimes caused innocent people to go to prison for many years. It's true. See, there's like maybe one prosecutor who's ever been successfully prosecuted. So, and actually spent any time in jail. Maybe for bribery or maybe for cocaine or something. Not for prosecutorial misconduct, not for any of the meaningful crimes that they commit every day, in which they convert human lives into their career gains. Without any regard for the justice of the laws they enforce. With that much faith in the rule of law, that if their own arbitrary decision making for personal benefit is technically legitimized by that law, or can be argued to be technically legitimized by that law, they feel justified in engaging in that behavior. That's reprehensible, considering the nature of the actions they're taking, and I think absolutely typical of the American prosecutor. I think that's fair criticism. So, to any Chinese national who might watch this, be it Jeff Chen or Jason Chen, his alter ego, or I don't know what Jason Chen is, but regardless, I want to make this clear to you guys. I am waking up, having talked to Jasmine, having talked to Jeff Chen, to the scope of the Holocaust that has been committed in China. And It's awful. But I'm also noting the following thing. That there's one thing above all else that guarantees at least a fighting chance, and that's freedom of expression. Because while Jeff Chin might say the U.S. has done this bad thing or that bad thing or the other bad thing, what he can't say is that freedom of expression is achieved at the same level in China as it is here. You can't say that you're free to criticize your government as much as you want. You can't say that you're free to protest out in the streets, that you demand democratic representation. You can't say any of those things. So yeah, the U.S. has done plenty of bad shit in the past, and will continue to do plenty of bad shit. You know, there's something sort of implicitly bad about a nation state using force, right? Regardless of how it occurs. But there is just self-defense. And if Taiwan's in a position of legitimately just self-defense, and certainly any aggression by China would constitute such a position for Taiwan, then I'd like to see the U.S. side 100% with Taiwan. Because the Holocaust that's been committed against billions of children in China may not seem like a Holocaust insofar as there aren't stacks and stacks of dead bodies. But it's a Holocaust of potentialities. It's a Holocaust of minds not merely left underdeveloped, as in the status quo here, but actively stunted. I know the way that, in general, minds work. It may not be this way with NTPs, but it's like this with almost every other type. If you don't get to them while they're still young enough to be shaped, well, I mean, we live in a good culture that allows those who are inclined to develop those sort of thinking skills to do so. And some people are just naturally getting INTP. It doesn't matter the circumstances in which they grow up. They're going to be perfectly capable of doing good thinking if they have access to good thinking. Now, your average Chinese person, well, they have access to some kinds of good thinking. Not the language kind, though. Not the parsing kind. So, you know, if you are from China and you are unable to argue the opposite of your position on something, I should be able to argue your side. I could argue your side a million times better than you can argue it, Jeff Chen. Let me demonstrate that. Okay. Foremost, the issue of Chinese sovereignty is left undefined, and in fact, the last legal mechanism that occurred was the Chiang Kai-shek regime walking out of the UN General Assembly and refusing to consider dual membership in the UN as an option. Given that, China has the best international legal precedent to claim single ownership of the two areas of land. And since both governments agree that the two areas of land are in single ownership, that's the legal precedent that we should use to decide who has just claim over it. And so therefore China has the best legal just claim over the land, and the U.S. should back China in their acquisition of Taiwan. Now, isn't that a stronger argument? It's got a better warrant, right? See, because I point out that Taiwan had the opportunity to be considered formally a separate country back in the 70s, and the Chiang Kai-shek regime refused because they didn't want to give up their claim to the mainland. They still had aspirations on the mainland, okay? So if I were going to make a legal argument in favor of citing China, that would be the argument I would make. If I were going to attack my positions, I would say, okay, first of all, why should we use this moral framework? Nation states are not actually moral agents. They behave in a extra moral realm in which we can only actually consider what's in the best interest of the individual citizens of the country. And it's in the best interest of the citizens of the United States to have a powerful friend in China than a weak friend in Taiwan. So even though we in general prioritize freedom and democracy, and there's nothing wrong with that, in the end of the day, we ought to prioritize our citizens' best interests first and not make enemies with China. And China seems to feel really strongly about this, so let's just not fucking push it, you know? That's a stronger argument than anything you made. Both those are. Okay? Do you see how I can argue both sides of the issue? Can you, Jeff, can you argue my position? This isn't just to Jeff, it's to anybody who watches that China video and wants to come support China or something. Look, guys, it's called freedom of expression. The ability, and then there's something that's more important than freedom of expression. It's called fairness. Being able to give both sides a fair accounting of the arguments, to actually address the points that are made, okay? And the last thing I'll say about this, before I finish my fairly lengthy at this point ranting, but last thing I'm going to say about it is freedom of expression. Back to the topic, right? Tiananmen Square thing. The question I asked in text in the description of the previous video and in the comments, I copied and pasted it there too in a different video in a couple of places, which is, why do the Chinese in social media use the date May 35th instead of June 4th when they don't do that with any other month? If you don't know the answer, regular viewer, non-Chinese viewer, it's because that's the date of the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989. And the government has made it such that any posts with that date in it are just disappeared from the internet, right? From the Chinese internet. So, as a consequence, people who want to talk about that date start using the expression March 35th. Now, Jeff Chen, if you're watching this one, I don't know if you are or not, but do you know why? Are you aware about the Tiananmen Square? Do you know anything about it at all? You should Google it. Tiananmen Square protest, 1989. That's called a failure to respect freedom of expression. You had protesters who were protesting for democracy. The Chinese government had a choice. They could just let them keep protesting, or they could kill a few of them and jail the rest. What do you think happened? Nobody was saying the Chinese government had to listen to the protesters. Nobody was saying the Chinese government had to change. But I am telling you, to be legitimate in my book, the government has to let them protest. If people get mad enough, well, protests get big enough, well, then it starts to actually threaten the government. Well, that's why they won't let them protest, Eric. I know, that's the problem. Look, authoritarianism can't survive the light of day. And the reason it can't survive the light of day is because it's bullshit. It's some random dude who, through a sophisticated set of mechanisms, is convincing everybody that if you're wearing this badge, this special badge, or that special hat, or this special cummerbund, then you're above the law. You are the law. Well, nobody's the law. Nobody's above the law. We're all equal. We're all equal socially, and we're all equal for the law. So that's what happens when you have freedom of expression. Because when you have freedom of expression, you can say what you actually think. Then if someone's a complete douchebag, you can call them out on it. So if I went too far in tonight's videos, I'm sure somebody will point out to me that, Eric, you kind of sound like a douchebag in this video. It's possible. I don't know. It depends on what you think. I mean, I genuinely feel strongly about it. Like, I don't know. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll check this to make sure it's good enough to go up. If it's pretty good, I'll put it up. It doesn't have to be great, but it may be just kind of rambly. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's good. Who knows?